Hey, welcome back to my channel Duct Tape Mechanic and to another episode of my series Free on Facebook, a series of videos in which I find things for free and I show you how to repair them, repurpose them, or recycle them in another manner. In this video, I got this older style Kenmore washing machine that's overflowing. And so if you have an older style Kenmore, Whirlpool, or Maytag washing machine and it's overflowing, I'm going to give you the top 5 reasons which could be causing this issue. If you found this video to be helpful, make sure you hit the subscribe button for more DIY and tinkering videos. Even though it looks like this Kenmore washing machine has seen better days, if I was a betting man, I'd be willing to wager that it still works better than most washing machines in stores these days. And that's true for a lot of these older style direct drive washing machines. And if you watch this channel, you know I really like these type of washing machines, the ones basically with the timer here, and these are pretty much called direct drive washing machines, and they're manufactured by Whirlpool, and they're relabeled as Kenmore or Maytag, Amana, and there's a couple of other different brands of them as well. They're very common, and they're actually no longer manufactured, but they're really solid machines. And in this video I got one that's pretty much overflowing, and that's the one thing, that's the one knock I have against them, is they're unlike the modern machines which can go into a flood mode and keep turning the pump on, so it'll help offset any overflow issues. These machines do not do anything when they're overflow except for the water keeps coming out the top and there's no way to stop it. So I'm going to show you how to fix this issue and give you the top 5 reasons that could be causing your older style washing machine to overflow. So the first thing we're going to be doing is flipping up this panel right here, and the way we do this is it depends on the model, but a lot of them will have 2 screws back here, the Whirlpool ones, while some of the other Kenmore 90 series, 80 series will have a panel where you pull off and there's screws right here. For this one, it's the Kenmore 300 series. This is also applicable to the 400 and 500 series. They have these hidden pins right here. All you have to do is slide a putty knife into it, and then you'll be able to pop up the top. So the first thing we'll be doing is popping up the top. Then we'll be taking off the top cover. So the next thing you want to do is go ahead and undo the lid switch. As you can see, somebody already bypassed it right here and jerry-rigged it together with the wire nut with electrical tape. I wouldn't recommend that because that's a safety issue, but you'll probably have a lid switch that's working, so you want to go ahead and unplug it. Then undo the clips right here. One of them already got undone in the process, but basically this is what holds the cover on, and you just have to stick your screwdriver in there and pull up like that. This one kind of was a little bit rough with it when I unloaded it, so it kind of came off, but same thing. And that'll allow us to pull off the top cover, and then we'll get to the top reason why your washer is overflowing. So the number one reason which causes your washer to overflow and most likely flood the room is that this pressure line, this pressure hose, is disconnected, and it could be either disconnected from the air bubble side on the tub, or it could be disconnected from the pressure switch right here. And either way, so whatever side is disconnected, I recommend maybe clipping off a 1/2 inch from that end with a pair of scissors and then putting it back on. That way you get a nice and secure connection. So that is the remedy to the top reason of the washer hose falling off, and that's a common occurrence. These things, pressure hoses, will come off. As you can see, this one was actually pretty loose, and once you clip off about a 1/2 inch, it'll give you a nice snug fit. And the same principle applies for the tub side as well. These can come off over time, so you just clip off a 1/2 inch and stick it in to the barb fitting. So that's literally the number one reason, is just that tube is unplugged. The second main reason your older style direct drive washing machine is overflowing is that there's a clog or a pinch in the pressure hose. Now to detect a pinch, just go ahead and follow the pressure hose and make sure it's properly secured against the back cabin of the washer, because sometimes it'll come out of these clamps and it can get crushed against the cover or the back or against a place where it's not supposed to be, and that'll cause a pinch, and it can actually overflow with that, or it could be clogged. And the best way to check if there's a clog is actually just to go ahead and undo this from the pressure switch and blow into it. When you blow into it, you should be able to blow into it fairly easily. Obviously there's going to be some resistance, but you should be able to hear the air coming out from this end of the tub. So I'll show you what that looks like next. So yeah, so I've got it disconnected from the pressure switch, and I'm just going to go ahead and blow into it. And I can hear the air coming out from the tub, and that means there's nothing obstructing the airflow. And if there is, I recommend maybe getting a compressor and putting a barb fitting onto here and just kind of blowing that air out, because you most likely won't be able to blow it out with just your lungs, but you may be able to, depending on how strong you are. But this one is good, and you can just tell by just how good the air sounds when you blow on it. That sounds perfect, so there's no obstruction on that pressure tube. Let's move on to reason number 3. The third reason is that there's a hole in the pressure tube. I've never really come across this, but it does make sense. If there's a hole, obviously the water pressure rising from the tub isn't going to displace enough of the air for the diaphragm to switch off the water valves, so that could definitely cause the washing machine to overflow. But this is going to be a little bit more difficult to tell unless you can visually tell that there's a hole, but you may have to dip this whole thing in water and blow air into it and see if you see any bubbles that aren't supposed to. There aren't supposed to be any bubbles when you blow through. Obviously, the only bubbles you see is from the other end. But what you could do is, if you've eliminated all the other steps and you've seen that there's no kink, there's no issues with any of the other things I'm going to talk about in this video, then you come back and assume that there's a micro hole or a real pinhole type of hole inside this pressure hose, and that's what's causing the pressure not to build up and turn on the pressure switch. Alright, the fourth reason why your washing machine is overflowing is a faulty pressure switch. Now basically this switch has a diaphragm that closes the circuit when the pressure inside the switch reaches a certain point, and you can hear a little clicking sound, and then it'll close the circuit between the purple and the brown wires right here, or the outside 2 terminals. So we can use that to our advantage. What we'll do is we'll unhook the pressure hose from this end right here, and we'll blow into it, and that'll simulate the washing machine water rising. And we'll put our multimeter on the continuity mode and put it on these 2 terminals, and once we blow into it, we should have continuity on these 2 terminals. That tells us that the switch is working properly. Now if we blow into it and there's no continuity, that tells us that there's an issue. Maybe the diaphragm is getting stuck, or there's some other issue going on in the switch, and the switch itself is bad. I'm going to show you what that looks like next. I'm going to go ahead and pull the pressure hose from the tub side and just kind of guide it up. I'm just going to pull it out as much as I need to. It's just need to do to blow into it and show you. So that's the pressure hose unhooked from the bottom of the tub. And then I'm going to go ahead and take the plug off the pressure switch as well. Should be able to just pull it right off. There we go. Now I'm going to put my multimeter into continuity mode and put it on the end 2 terminals there and blow into it and see what happens. So we got it into continuity mode. It's going to make a beeping sound when it closes the circuit. So I'll go ahead and see if I can just jam it in there temporarily and put it into that terminal as well. I think that should be enough for our demonstration there. And I'm going to set the multimeter down. Then I'm just going to go ahead and blow into the pressure hose. I went ahead and clipped it already, so it'll be a nice and tight connection when I put it back on. But anyways, we'll go ahead and blow into it and see if there's continuity. And you'll hear an audible beep I'll also go ahead and move the camera a little bit so you can see perhaps a little bit better. And that should do the trick right there. So let's do it. So first you hear that diaphragm clicking, and then you hear the circuit closing by the sound made by the multimeter. So that tells us the pressure switch is good. So yeah, if it wasn't making that noise, or if it was making that noise and once you released it, it was getting stuck closed, then that's another issue, and the pressure switch itself is bad. But our switch is good because once we blow into it, it makes continuity, and once we stop blowing into it, it breaks off the circuit as well. Alright, so the fifth and final reason why your washing machine continues to fill up with water and eventually overflow is a failure in the water inlet valves. Now, oftentimes these valves can get stuck and they will no longer close properly. That'll prevent the water from being cut off, and they just keep filling up. Occasionally the solenoids can get burned as well, so if they get burned out while the inlet valve is in the open position, that could also lead to a scenario where the water keeps filling up the washing machine and overflowing. Sometimes if they get burned while in the closed position, obviously that'll just prevent water from coming in. But most likely the reason they fail is because they get this either rust or some sort of sediment gets in from your water supply, and they can't close properly. So that's the fifth reason. But thankfully these water supply valves are fairly cheap, and I think the most expensive one is probably actually this green Whirlpool one, because it's got this integrated temperature sensor in it, which is about 20 bucks. So if you go through the whole process and you just can't figure out what's going on, go ahead and just replace the water inlet valve and this pressure tube right here, and 95% of the chances are that you've solved the issue, because after that it just leaves that pressure switch. But I just showed you a simple way to test that. So anyways, so if you found these 5 tips to be helpful in repairing your washing machine, make sure you hit the thumbs up sign.